Welcome in. Continues, and the Philadelphia Eagles select Kyle McCord, quarterback out of Syracuse, one that's close to my heart. He went to my high school, St. Joe's Prep, down in the city of brotherly love in Philly. He's a Mount Laurel, New Jersey kid. He's 6'3", 218, played his college ball at Ohio State, and then he transferred to Syracuse for last year, and he set all sorts of ACC records last year at Syracuse. One of the most accurate quarterbacks in the draft. I believe he led the FBS in passing yards last year. So a draft pick right here. A St. Joe's Prep kid coming back to Philly and is drafted by the Philadelphia Eagles. Let's get John McMullen in here now to discuss this draft pick. Johnny Mac, do I got you, brother? The quarterback factory continues.
Yeah, I'm here.
I got you, brother.
Yeah, another high-profile pick by the Eagles. I love the kid. I remember talking. I don't understand why Ohio State went in a different direction. Set all kinds of ACC records at Syracuse. I really think he's a good developmental prospect to be, here a long-term backup, but another value pick here on day 3 for the Eagles. I think it was a really good pick.
John, I remember you talking about him on Birds 365. He was one of your favorite quarterbacks in the draft because you knew from a value perspective, you were like, hey, I'll take this guy late. Him and Dylan Gabriel is the two guys I think that you really liked as a late value pick. And you get him here, John, in the 6th round at, 181 overall. He's 6'3", 218. He led the FBS in passing yards last year, Johnny Mac. As you tweeted out, he broke all sorts of ACC records. This is a kid who I think could potentially be a starter one day in the NFL. I don't know what you think of that. I don't think it's going to be here in Philly, but I do think it's a good value pick, and I think this kid's got a bright future.
Yeah, so do I. I mean, that's what you're looking for on day 3 in the draft and late in the process is guys that can sit and grow. And obviously he's got a chance here to not be forced into the lineup and lose his confidence and things like that. But
right.
I think it's it's probably not good for Dorian Thompson-Robinson, but long term, I think it's good for the Eagles in the standpoint you can, who knows, in a year you could spin off Tanner McKee for some draft capital, and hopefully, Jalen Hurts stays healthy and you never need to see any of these guys play. But I think for the process of where you are, if you're the Philadelphia Eagles and you don't want to spend a ton of money on a backup quarterback, you now have 2 young quarterbacks that I think you can get pretty excited about.
Yep, no doubt about it there, Johnny Mac. So they take him in round 6 here. John, you think this would maybe confirm the earlier rumors today of the Eagles' interest in Zander Sanders? I mean, obviously they had a quarterback in mind in the draft at some point, and the Eagles, they love value on quarterbacks especially. So, but being how far Sanders fell, maybe I'm not saying this is a guaranteed confirmation, but I think it might improve the odds of that being true that the Eagles were interested in Zander Sanders. What do you say?
Yeah, I mean, it confirms they would take a quarterback. I mean, there's a situation from that standpoint. Certainly Cleveland thought they were going to take him, so that's not confirmation either. I imagine Howie, we're going to ask him that question, obviously. So at the end of the day, I imagine he'll skirt around it. He's not going to confirm things, but it is a clear indication that they would have been willing to take a quarterback. And knowing the Eagles and the value at that point, that's what a lot of the rest of the league was thinking. There was a rumor going around that the Eagles were going to take him, and all of a sudden Cleveland jumps up, which is interesting because they also took Dylan Gabriel. But, you throw enough darts at the dartboard, maybe you hit on something. But yeah, it's clearly the Eagles were willing to take a quarterback, and I don't think this is necessarily a black mark against Tanner McKee, but I do think it's probably they're not fully hyped up on Dorian Thompson-Robinson as the quarterback 3. So clearly they wanted to improve that situation, or they wouldn't have talked about it. But here we go. Got to do some business on the air. So we're getting press conferences and Smail Monson's coming up, and Kyle McCord. So I got to run early. Hopefully,
All right, Johnny Mac. Thank you, brother.
We're going to catch up after the draft, but it might be a little because the Eagles have so many picks. All this is coming at us a million miles an hour. But Kyle McCord, great day 3 value.
Got it. Thank you, Johnny Mac. Appreciate it, brother.
All right.
There's Johnny Mac, John McMullen, the #1 Eagles beat reporter in town, checking in here on the Kyle McCord pick. A quarterback has landed. Great value here for the Philadelphia Eagles. I'm going to give you guys some intel on this kid. I know him well because he went to my high school, so I watched him in high school. I mean, I wasn't at the school when he was there, obviously, but he was a very good high school player, a 5-star recruit. Went to Ohio State originally, then he went to Syracuse last year. I mentioned he led the FBS. How about this? 4,779 yards passing in college. Are you kidding me, man? Are you kidding me? That's unbelievable. So school record, 391 completions, ranked 5th with school record 34 passing touchdowns and only 12 picks. Set the school record with 592 attempts, a 66 completion percentage, and he started all 13 games. He was also the Holiday Bowl offensive MVP. 24 of 34 in that game for 453 yards and 5 touchdowns. This dude can sling the rock. Brandon says, sell me on him, Zander. Brandon, this dude can sling the rock. He led all of college football. How many colleges are there, Brandon, in the FBS? 100 plus, 150, 200, however many there are. He led every last one of them in passing yards. All right. Started all 13 games last year. A second-team All-ACC player. Pretty tremendous. And then earlier he played at Ohio State, and obviously Ohio State went a different direction with Will Howard, so he transferred out of there. He did start 12 games, though, for Ohio State in 2023, where he threw 3,170 yards, 24 touchdowns to 6 picks. He entered the transfer portal following the season, and he went to Syracuse. So I don't know if he's better than Will Howard. I think Will Howard was probably a better fit for Ohio State at the time. I like McCord better. I might have some bias here because he is a St. Joe's prep kid. Yeah, prep. Yeah, prep. St. Joe's prep kid. So I love that. So good stuff there. But Kyle McCord coming to Philly, a great value here for him in the 6th round, 181 overall for him. So pretty good value for the Eagles. And, me and John talked about it a little bit. Maybe it does confirm the rumors that the Eagles were interested in Shedeur Sanders a little bit earlier on when the Browns jumped 1 spot ahead of them and took Shedeur Sanders. A lot of people said, hey, Eagles are interested in Sanders. The reason you can't rule it out is because the Eagles look for value, and they look for value especially in quarterbacks. So Shedeur fell that far. The Eagles started to see the value. It might confirm that as well. So I think, Brandon says Will Howard was on the board. That's my confusion. Well, here's what I'll tell you. I think there's a higher upside here with Kyle McCord. Will Howard just went to the Steelers. Thank you, Wayne the Pain. I think there's a higher upside here with Kyle McCord. Now, granted, we don't need a quarterback. We got Jalen Hurts, so this is a guy for the bench anyway. Obviously, you still have Tanner McKee. You still have Dorian Thompson-Robinson, but maybe one of those guys is on the outs. They just traded for Dorian this offseason, so I doubt they're going to trade him again. Maybe they would cut him. I'm not really sure what they would end up doing with him, but Kyle McCord has landed. I'll give you guys the scouting report on him as well. Pocket passer with good size, who played in a high-volume pro passing scheme that should give him a head start as a pro. McCord was too inconsistent at Ohio State relative to the talent around him, but he proved to be confident and productive last season at Syracuse without the same level of supporting talent. His fundamentals are usually solid, and he plays with adequate poise in the face of pressure. He has enough arm to make window throws and push the ball around the field. McCord seeks to attack coverages vertically instead of operating as a check-down Charlie. While he can hit chunk throws, his decision-making and ball placement aren't always good fits for his gunslinging mentality. His mobility inside and outside the pocket is average. McCord has good size, adequate talent, and commendable resilience. He could find a home as a backup quarterback with modest upside. So there's the scouting report by Lance Zierlein. He projected him to go rounds 3 or 4, so you get him here in the 6th, all right? Here's the list of strengths and weaknesses. His strengths: plays with an attacking mindset to challenge defenses, allows routes to breathe and mature when necessary, reads coverage and progressions high to low when possible, good feel for buying time and beating the blitz, pretty good poise to manage unblocked pressure closing in, arm strength to deliver deep outs to the field side, and throws a catchable deep fade with adequate placement. So there's your strengths. From a weakness perspective, this is what you got. Below average twitch to get the ball out quickly when needed. Tight trunk makes it tough to square and deliver on rollouts. Slower operation time allows corners to pounce and close his windows. Throws back into the middle of the field and traffic when scrambling. Average feel for placing throws between leveled coverage. Inconsistent to lead moving targets with his ball placement. Too willing to throw at a covered target despite lurking coverage, and allows edge pressure to close and sack him without climbing. So a couple of weaknesses there, but look, you get good value from this player. Obviously, any guy that leads to the FBS in receiving yards and receptions is a good quarterback. And look, it's probably going to be a backup here for his duration in Philly, but I like the pick from a value perspective. Brian Pumper checks in. So this tells me Shedeur was definitely the pick at 145. Yep, Brian, I'm with you. I brought that up with John. John thought similarly as well, that they were at least willing to draft a quarterback. So maybe the hype about the Eagles drafting Shedeur was real, and then they go with Kyle McCord here in round number 6. So an interesting draft pick here for the Philadelphia Eagles, but Kyle McCord has landed. Again, I like this pick because he went to my high school, St. Joe's Prep. Yeah, Prep. Shout out to that. Some pretty good stuff there for Kyle McCord. I'll take a couple of comments from you guys before we check out of here. Patrick says, why do we draft a quarterback? Patrick, don't you know? We're the quarterback factory. We're the quarterback factory. All right. Brian says sugarcoating ass. Nah, he's not ass. He might not be a great starter in the future, but he's not ass. That's not. All right. That's not for sure at all. All right. McCord not afraid to stand in the pocket and take it. Deshae, that's the best part about him. He's a pocket throwing. He looks to deliver the ball downfield, will stand in the pocket and get that ball downfield. So a different style than Jalen Hurts for sure, but definitely a guy that can do that. Joe Whip says Kyle Brady. I love it. I love it. McCord starter, JK. No, he's not going to be that. All right. Not going to be that. Are we trading Tanner? Are we keeping 4 quarterbacks? You got to think somebody's on the outs, right? Probably won't be McCord either. All right. Probably won't be McCord. So thank God the Shedeur pick would have Hurts fans in shambles. It would definitely have them in shambles. Ryan says St. Joe's Prep stinks. Coming from a stiff who's never stepped foot inside the city of Philadelphia. Interesting comment by you, little Ryan. Rich Nutt says, looks like Giants take Ole Miss quarterback and Birds take Syracuse. Funny. Yep, there you go. Very funny. Very funny there. All right. So Kyle McCord has landed. Kyle McCord has landed. James M says, still love Tanner. I like McCord more than I like Tanner. Sorry, guys. All right. I like Shedeur or I like McCord more than I like Tanner. I like Shedeur more than all of them. So no doubt about it. But he went round 6, pick 5 here, 181 overall. And an interesting pick here, but Kyle McCord. I like it. I actually like this pick. I think it's good value here too. And the Eagles should be coming up again at 191, right? So there you go. Speaking of a kicker, one just came off the board. Probably the first kicker of the draft just came off the board. So there you go. All right, there you go for the people who are looking for a kicker. I think the Eagles pick at 191 here coming up. So I don't know if they'll trade it. They have 3 picks left, 191, 207, and 209. We'll see what they end up doing with those picks. Who do you think the Eagles will choose for pick 191? If I had to guess, trade. Trade out. Add 2 more 7th rounders. I don't know what they're doing, man. They keep trading back, adding all these picks. We're going to have 10 draft picks this year, which is crazy. So, and then we'll see what they do in the undrafted free agents too as well. So at 186, the Ravens just selected Arizona kicker Tyler Loop. This is interesting because of obviously everything that happened with Justin Tucker with the sexual misconduct allegations with the massage people or whatever it is. So a little bit of Deshaun Watson things going on with Justin Tucker, and they take a kicker. Damn, you wanted Loop? I didn't think about him. Not going to lie to you. Second most important player on the team is a backup quarterback. Not a bad take. Eagles kicker can't even do 59-yarders anymore. We could use a new kicker for sure. Maybe they just want 3 quarterbacks. Yeah, but who do they get rid of, Bartlett? They got Hurts, McKee, Dorian Thompson-Robinson, and now Kyle McCord. So you're probably going to keep 3 for sure, obviously with the new rule, but who's on the outs? That will be the question. That will be the question there. What can he do? But I do think this is a high upside. Not a high upside, but I think this is a guy that could be an NFL quarterback. I really do. So we'll see what he ends up doing. If he went to a team like the Steelers or, even the 49ers or something, if they didn't want to pay Brock, excuse me, I can see him doing good things there. So appreciate you all checking in. Hit that like button for me. All right. Stay tuned. We'll be live again later on. Johnny Mac's going to be swamped, so I don't know how much more I'll be able to get John immediately after the picks, but we will talk to John at some point later on in the night when we wrap up this NFL draft. We got 3 picks left. We'll see what the Eagles do with them. Appreciate you guys all checking in. Hit that like button. See you next time, everybody.